But what does blame mean? So important to understand. Blaming is if in that moment I lost it. I could have, but I'm no angel, because it's not that I don't lose it still to anger in my daily life. I'm not trying to be an angel here, but just in this situation, somehow or another, that grace flowed through us. Both. We're very, very grateful for that. Very thankful to Vaheguru for that. If I had got angry in that moment and I tried to blame Preet Charan for me being angry, that's when I have fallen. That's the blame that Maharaj is saying don't do. Don't blame someone for your anger, because that's an internal response now. That's the thing I need to take response for, is that I got angry and I need to put my hands up. I got angry. Dosh na dije avrajana, jo main kiya, I'm gonna have to pay for the anger that I went through and experienced. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to deal with the consequences of that. The moment I try and say anger's your fault, I've lost. Yeah, but I can separate the learning from the situation. That's what we need to take responsibility of, is our internal response. Welcome to the Japji Sahib podcast. In this episode, we'll be going through the 20th stanza blessed to us by Guru Nanak Dev Ji. In this stanza, we'll be looking at repetitive actions. How is it that something becomes a habit? But even deeper than that, how is it that habit becomes engraved where we even take it to our next life? Guru Nanak Dev Ji will be answering these questions for us. But the most important part, Guru Nanak Dev Ji will be giving us an answer and will be helping us to break from these habits that are keeping us in that ignorance and keeping us in that cycle of birth and death. Today we've got a special guest with us, Jagmeet Singh. Let's say fateh to Jagmeet Singh. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. First of all, amazing, lovely to have you with us today.
Thank you, Baji.
Normally it's myself and Preet Charan Singh. We've had a few other guests, but you're somebody that's a familiar face to the channel, and so it'll be amazing for the Sangat to hear your vichar as well and your contemplation of Guruji's words as well. Let's get straight into it. Guruji starts off with using an analogy to help us to understand something a lot deeper. So they start off with saying, Bhareeai Hath Pair Tan De. So we can also go through a few pronunciations as well. Bhareeai means to fill. And then Hath, nice and easy. There we go. Hands, Pair, feet. And then Tan. Tan, this word, we've got to be careful we don't mix it up with Tan, with the Tadda. This is Tan. So this is nice and simple, no emphasis on it. Tan translates to the body. And now we've got here De. So De here doesn't mean give. The ha-ha De, ha-ha mukta, we're going to say very slightly in our breath. So we long out the lam, so we say De. That also means body. Guruji does this quite often in Gurbani, where they'll be saying the same thing and they'll use sometimes 2 to 3 words, different words, but to say the same thing, just to reinforce what Maharaj is saying here. So nice and simple here. Bhareeai referring to filling when our body gets dirty. Hands, we do something, they get dirty. Our feet, we might be walking on the ground, which is amazing to do actually. It's called earthing, isn't it, nowadays? I'm sure, I don't know, have you tried earthing, Virji?
Yeah, if I can, but yes. Sometimes you can't really trust the ground. Especially go to a local park or something, you could be all sorts out there. If you get an opportunity in actual nature, like trees and that,
Yes, I think I used to do it quite often and not now as often as I would like. But anyway, let's get back on track here, because this is just talking about, Maharaj is saying basically your hands, you've got them dirty somehow, got your feet dirty, body's dirty, nice, easy fix, Maharaj says here. Paani Dhotai, Utras Khe, saying, get some water, wash it off. And Utras, that K means dirt, here pronounced in the same way with the ha slightly in our breath. Long it out a bit, K. So that K, that dirt, Maharaj is saying, Utras can be taken away, washed away, Dhota, with some washed with Paani. Nice and easy. Yes. So next pankti, Moot Paleeti kappad hoye. Then Maharaj is saying that how about if your kappad, your kappade, your clothes become ruined or let's say soiled by moot, by urine. Maharaj is saying even that, Moot Paleeti kappad, Paleet translates to ruined, koi cheez kharab ho jani, gets soiled. And then moot is the urine here in this pankti. Moot Paleeti kappad hoye. Again there Maharaj is saying, no problem. De Saboon laiye Ohu Dhopai. They say, take some Saboon, Saban, soap, lake laiye Ohu Dhopai, and wash that urine away from those clothes that it's soiled. Not too hard. And it almost feels like Maharaj is saying, all right, dirt, wash it away with water, a bit of a step up now, a bit more difficult. You're going to have to use some sort of substance now to really get it out, rub it out. Still not too hard. You can get it done. But now Maharaji brings our attention to what they want to actually say to us, what it's really about, what this line, what this Pauri stanza is all about. And they say to us that, Bhareeai Mat, Papa Ka Sang. They're saying, but how about if it's now the mat, it's the mind that is filled. The mind is filled with pap. Pap can be translated, it literally translates to sins, but you can word it in a different way if you wish. You can word it with negative actions. If our mind is filled, and that might sound a bit off when we say filled with negative actions. We'll understand that a little bit more. I think what will be good to do here is let's give some of the literal translations to the lines, and then we'll look at it as an overall, and we'll come back and forth to the different lines. I think that will work really well for this Pauri in the way it's worded. So, Bhareeai Mat Papa Ka Sang. How about, sang means with, but now it's filled with sins, this mind is. And it's not like there's a sin that sits in the mind somewhere, is it? So we need to understand what that means. Or how does our mind even become sinful? What does that even look like? Or let's just call it negative, because people today, there's certain words that have got a certain connotation about them. And some people will understand it better if we just use the word negative here. And then before Jagmeet Singh, we do go into things deeper. Let's just quickly give everyone a quick literal translation. And because then it will make more sense as well, so we don't miss anything. Then Maharaji says here is, Ohu Dhopai nave ke rang. Saying, but even that can be fixed. Even that can be washed away. It's not that is it now. You are stuck or you're doomed forever. There's many people that start to feel and think that way, don't they? I don't know, have you ever been in that situation, Virji, where you're thinking, that's it. I just can't see a way out. It feels like I'm stuck here forever now. Have you ever been in that place in your life? I think it's important to talk about, because a lot of people...
Many times in my life, I've been through periods where it feels like complete darkness, completely being alone, stuck within the confines of negativity. But I'll be honest with you, I've been always blessed to have the flicker of hope within inside myself.
Wow.
With Maharaj's Kripa. So personally, I don't mind how, I don't love it, but I don't mind how dark it gets, because I know through the darkest tunnel, through the darkest night, there's going to be light at the end of that tunnel, or the dawn comes when it is most dark, So I know around the corner psychologically. And I think no matter how much pain someone's going through their lives, no matter what their circumstances might look like, if you have a vision of a compelling future, if you have hope within inside yourself, you can get through any darkness. But certainly, I've been through that.
I would say that what Guruji's saying here is that no matter how, because there's one thing when you're going through a bit of what you said, a bit of a dark period, a dark time of your life, but there's one when you feel stuck because of your own habits.
Yes.
Because this is what this is leading to. But remember, this is that flicker that you're saying, that hope that you're saying, that now that the sun is going to rise again. Basically, this is what Maharaj is saying here. Ohu Dhopai nave ke rang. It can be washed with the color rang of Naam. We'll look deeper into Naam in a moment.
Anji.
With God's name, that one's name. Maharaj is saying here, Puni Paapi aakhan na hai. Remember, we're going to come back to this. So
Anji.
I just want to read out the literal translation to here, because it's very different to what most people will be used to reading as a translation. Because Puni here is referring to the person that is virtuous. But you would have been used to seeing the translation saying here sin. But the word Puni cannot be translated to sin, because that would be pun. This is Puni, the person that is sinning. Or sorry, pun being the other way around, the virtuous, right? Yeah, so the Paapi is the sinner. So we're trying to do is be more accurate with the translations to help Sangat more. So Puni Paapi aakhan na hai. Maharaj saying the impact of being virtuous or a sinner is no small thing. And we'll look at deeper in what Maharaj is saying. Because you must have heard sometimes when somebody's saying, ਲੈ ਇਹ ਉਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣ ਮਾਤਰ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੀ, ਇਹ ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ. That's like ਠੇਠ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ. And when I say ਕਹਿਣ ਮਾਤਰ, that means it's not something you just say. This is real, this happens. So that's how you would say, and that's literally what Maharaj is saying here, that don't think that this isn't a thing, that somebody can actually end up becoming somebody that is now virtuous or a sinner. Meaning that there's a way of the way somebody is, somebody's personality, not their natural godly nature, but just their natural response or they're in reaction mode. Their nature ends up becoming where they are now, just in constant mode of somebody is a sinner now. The way they react to everything is in anger, is out of greed. Maharaj said this is a thing. People actually become like that, by the way.
Yes.
Maharaj saying, but Punni, there's people that are Punni as well, that just naturally just giving and will always act out of being virtuous. It's a thing.
Anji.
So that's what this means here. And then Maharaj say to us, well, how does that happen? Remember we started off with the Bhareeai Mat Papanke song. That's why I thought it's important that we go through all the lines. We've got to do it together. Otherwise it's not going to make sense. Yep. Okay, how have you filled this mind, Maharaj saying, with Paap? And how has your mind become so negative where your reaction to life is only negative now, is only out of anger, is only out of looking down at someone? Now that's become your nature. Maharaj says, well, it's not just happen randomly. It's not that it's just one day there's a so-called God sitting somewhere and thought, Jagmeet, yeah, we'll make you a puppy. It's not that just God goes, ding, you're a puppy now. And a lot of people think this of God. Because I hear people talking like this, you know, however God has made me, and that's just how I am. No, Maharaj said, no, take responsibility. Maharaj kande Kar Karna. They said it's because you've done something again and again. You've done it consciously or unconsciously, but you've done it. Jummebari sambal, take responsibility. Then somebody said, well, what's God got to do with it then? I thought, you know, everything is within God's will. Yes, within the way this nature of creation has been designed accordingly to that. You have done something again and again. Now it's become a habit and it's become engraved, and now your personality, and it's gone deep, and it's even become your nature. Nature meaning that's just how you react to everything in life now. That's how translating it's become your nature. It's become it's within hukam, within God's design, but it's the way you have used God's design. Yeah. That's how God's design has worked for you because of what you've done with it.
Anji.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So Mar is saying, how did your mind become like that? Bhareeai Kar Karna. You've done something again and again. And then it's become Karna. Karna means now it's become your karam. It's become engraved in you. It's now what is leading your life for you. It's now what is it's carving your destiny. That's how you're reacting to life. Everything is now coming from that. That's the Karna part.
Anji.
Yeah. Marji saying, Lekha, it's now become inscribed inside of you. We've used here the word engraved. La Jaahu. I'm going to read out the way we've translated it because we've done a smashing job. And I've got to say, I've got to credit Preacharan Singh for being such a huge contributing factor to the way this is being worded. Because my part is the contemplation towards it, reading different versions of translations of it, but it's Preacharan that then words it in this way at the end. So repeating the same actions again and again, they become engraved on the mind and take control of your life. And then, but we want to blame God. Marji said, don't try that trick. Don't play that card. Because Marji says that, well, they're going to say it here anyway, Aape Beej. You've planted the seed of doing it again and again. Aap hi khaho. You're eating now because your whole reaction to life is from that now. Yeah? Just like Marji says, dadde dosh na deo kaise dosh karma apne jo main kiya so main paya dosh na dije avrjana. We just thinking, yeah, that one. I know that one, mate.
I'm thinking, where's the translation?
Yeah, you can read it out. Read it out, Veerji.
Whatever I did for that.
The word I did. Emphasize.
Right. Whatever I did,
yes,
for that I have suffered. I do not blame anyone else.
Simple, isn't it?
Anji.
Yeah, it's all within the way the design has been set up. But we got to take responsibility.
I think, like, you mentioned earlier, like, people say, "Jo Maharaj ne kirpa karni," there's almost like there's no self-responsibility, I think this, to me, it's saying, if you accept full responsibility and, in effect, you're not playing the victim anymore, because either you're at the cause of life, like life's happening to you, or you're causing life. So you're negative and you're positive. If you accept both of them as your own doing, then you retain the power to change the outcome. Whereas if I always think it's happening to me, oh, poor, woe is me, if I had that mentality, then...
Have you ever experienced in your life having that mentality?
Yeah, I mean, I have, but I always, since a long, maybe for a long time, I've always accepted responsibility for my own mind, meaning like I'm extra hard on myself.
Perfect. Well, that part's not perfect.
No, I know, but this is what I'm
the first part, yes.
Yeah, I'm being honest with you. Like I like anything negative, anything bad. I understand is my own doing, because I don't think I bring Guruji and Vaheguruji into it. I always consider like the good and the bad is a blessing, But then I don't think necessarily God is up there blessing me with bad on purpose for any particular reason.
So I would just slightly reword that, just very slightly. I would say good and bad can become a blessing depending on how I look at it.
Certainly. And you know, a lot of times the negative or the pain of life doesn't feel like a blessing when you're going through it, you know. But I can understand like it causes the pangs of separation. So I can understand like if I didn't have the negative or the bad or that which makes you disconnected, I may never have the thirst for connection, you know. So I see it as a blessing in that respect, and I'm a big proponent of self-acceptance, you know, of the things that are going right, the positive and the negative, because you retain the power to change outcome. Then, you know, even if it's got, let's say, nothing to do with me. Let's say it's a third party, like something very, let's say the death of a family member. It's so painful and it's so out of your control, you know. But I think like, you know, I've got this ability with Maharaj's Kirpa, like if something so big happens as out of my physical, then I'm very much more accepting of it because I know this has got nothing to do with me. This is something that's happened. But if it's like, if it feels within my control, then I don't know, something different, you know. But I understand like the bigger aspect of things, and I try to work through the pain to come back to the positive and the connection, you know.
Just from what you've said there, a few things there. So there's certain things that, let's be clear first. Yes, there are things that are outside of our control. There's many things that we've created ourselves in our life because of the way we've been. There are certain things that will be outside of our direct control, and certain things that do happen that we totally understand. So we're not here being unrealistic about things, because it's very important to look at things for how they are. Yeah? But there are many things that they are the way they are because of what we have sown. That's true as well. As much as that is true, there's things externally that there's nothing I could have done to even contribute towards that, and the ways circumstances are. But there are plenty of things that I have directly contributed towards, and the outcome of what is in life at the moment is because of those actions. That is true as well. Yeah. But there's one thing, whether it was out of my control, outside, or whether it was even created by my own self, but what Maharaj is saying in that line of doshna dije avarjana, of not here putting the blame onto something else. Do you know what that means? Is not to put the blame on something else, is referring to the way I now internally respond to that situation, whether it was caused by my own actions or whether it was something that is outside of my control. But one thing I cannot blame for anyone else for is the way I'm going to now respond to the surrounding situation or whatever is going on with me. That is one thing I can't blame now. Okay, let's use an example now. Okay, let's just share with the Sangat now what happened with us. We've retranslated these, okay? And because for me, just to throw this in, is I think a big part of truthfulness, the first gun is Sat, and a part of that is being, I think authenticity is very refreshing for people. And I say authenticity in a way of being true to what is in this moment. Yeah. So we didn't change somehow or another, the translations weren't changed to the ones we did. So we started recording the podcast based off a different set of translations, the Sant Singh Khalsa ones. I was fighting in my mind that this isn't the vichar, this isn't what I want to talk about. But I didn't realize it's not changed over. And I'm thinking, is this how we translated it? It's making me go off a different direction. And there felt like a force inside. But I just kept going. But it wasn't the translations that we've done, but I didn't realize.
Yeah. It's so funny when that was happening.
Go on.
I could see your internal, because your eyes are very expressive. And I was thinking, oh man, I'm really messing Paji's flow up here. I was thinking
it wasn't you.
No, I know. I was thinking, I'm doing something really.
It wasn't the translations that we had done.
Hanji.
This is so refreshing for Sangat loves in today's age for somebody just to be real and speak about what's happened.
Yeah.
So Virji, and then we've taken a lot of time to set up. It's past lunchtime now. We've not had lunch, poor old us, Virji. and then Preacher is apologetic because he's, field, the technical side, he didn't manage to change it over. And in that moment, what we could have just lost it then. So for example, now to put this into context, what it means to blame someone else, the blame is nothing to do with the situation. I can still have a conversation with Preacher and saying, Vijay, can we be careful? Can we just be more mindful next time to make sure we just have a quick check? We can learn from the situation. Can we be more mindful that we just check that it's definitely our translations before we start the podcast? Amazing. That's become Dukdaru for us. We've learned from the situation. Brilliant. We're not going to ignore that conversation. If we ignore that conversation, we can fall in the same pit again. But what does blame mean? So important to understand. I can ask Preacher to take responsibility of that task in that moment, but that's not blaming here. Blaming is if in that moment I lost it. I could have. I'm no angel because it's not that I don't lose it still to anger in my daily life. I'm not trying to be an angel here, but just in this situation, somehow or another, that grace flowed through us. Both. We're very, very grateful for that. Very thankful to Vaiguru for that. And we didn't get angry. And it was like, it's fine. Let's learn from. So if I had got angry in that moment and I tried to blame Preacher for me being angry, that's when I have fallen. That's the blame that Maharaj is saying don't do. Don't blame someone for your anger because that's an internal response now. That's the thing I need to take response for is that I got angry and I need to put my hands up. I got angry. Dosh na dije avrajana. Jo main kiya, I'm going to have to pay for the anger that I went through and experienced. Jo main kiya. So I'm going to have to deal with the consequences of that. The moment I try and say, anger's your fault, I've lost. But I can separate the learning from the situation and speak to Preacher and in whichever manner I need to speak to him in. It might be a bit stern. We didn't need to. It was actually really beautiful. That moment it's absolutely fine. And it was during this podcast now, I said, that came out, we can just make sure we just look at it first. So that's what we need to take responsibility of is our internal response.
It was beautiful too because Bhai Preacher and Singhji was completely meticulous to the millimeter about all aspects of the setup. It took like an hour or two just to get everything precisely perfect. So it's not like he was airy-fairy about any aspect of it, So whatever happened. But this thing called blame, right? Like, if I do something quote unquote wrong, I like to figure out where it went wrong and I accept blame so I can retain power to affect change in the future, right? But where I go wrong is blame of other people. So again, you tell me if it's right or wrong, quote unquote good or bad, negative or positive. Like if I do something wrong myself and I know it's wrong myself, I try to in effect, blame myself and in that blame, take responsibility. So if I take responsibility for an action or a thought or the way I've taken something, then in my mind, I'm retaining power to affect change in the future. So maybe I'm not being a victim in my own mind. I can say, oh, I've done X, Y, and Z. So if I tweak this, I can get a different outcome, right?
Perfect.
And for me, it works, to help develop myself. But then I think where I go wrong, well, maybe I know I go wrong and I get your advice on this, is where I blame others. Well, let's say it's like within a family circumstance, right? And something, whatever it be, something goes wrong. And then I like to pinpoint, well, that's this person's fault. And my intention is, if we can pinpoint where it went wrong, then we can fix that generalized issue, you know? But then my wife always tells me, like, hey, don't blame. It's nobody's fault. This is something that's happened. We don't need to blame somebody. And then, you know, I don't know, maybe I even do it with a negative connotation.
No, that's fine. Let's look at that now. Thank you for that, Viji. It's such a relevant question and point and to raise. Okay, so I would say if we say it's no one's fault, no one's to blame, I would say that's very passive language. I don't think that is, in my view, that can be quite damaging as well, because we could still keep going round and round in the same mistakes, same issues, falling in the same rut again and again. Yeah. So I'd be mindful of not using passive language, but definitely if something needs to be addressed, it needs to be addressed. What we've got to keep in mind is a few things here. The person then you also want to take responsibility of where they could have done something different to avoid that outcome. They might not be ready to hear it. Or they might be, okay? So then we've got to be somewhat intuitive to that situation, or we might have to learn by trying to put it on them and they totally blow you off. Yeah. And you mentioned something there, it might be your approach to them. Yeah. It might be. So say if you went for the best possible approach, you all sweet, whatever, however it was needed, they still might not be ready. And then it's about you. It's about, again, your response to how they are. If they're not ready, you've still got to remain balanced, and you want to still be working on not getting angry and frustrated with them. You might as a first initial, and we always say, don't be so hard on yourself if initially you do get a bit worked up and
agitated.
Yeah, work through it. That's fine. Yeah, we're not trying to be unrealistic here. We're not trying to suppress certain emotions that occur. Yes, of course, we could evolve to a state where that response, that reaction doesn't occur. So maybe if certain people are uncomfortable with certain language, I try not to use the word blame. Some people do, and it works and it's okay. I'm not against the word, but personally, I tend not to. So in the environments, what I try and use is say, let's have a look at this. Let's look at how, and sometimes Maharaj does this a lot. When they're going to talk about a certain topic, Maharaj might not even have that issue, but they'll bring it upon themselves and talk about it through themselves. And that's referred to in Punjabi, apne aap nu sambodhan karke. So you bring it upon yourself. It's not even, you haven't even got that issue. Yeah. So, or where you've addressed the part that you needed to work on. So then I'll say, okay, so I think I could have done this in this way. And then sometimes I actually ask people, are you okay to talk about this? Are you willing to have a conversation about this? And then see where we can go with that. And then I'll avoid certain trigger words that I know that are often trigger words for certain people. So then instead of using the word blame, I'll say, how about if we were to do this like this? Because then it seems like, maybe we've got enough evidence to see that now, that this ends up being the outcome when it's done like this. Yeah, that's now nothing to do with how your internal, because remember the spiritual journey is about how you internally respond. But if you need to have a conversation about something to somebody else about their action, of course it should be had. Otherwise we wouldn't have otherwise we're just throwing out meaty and we're only looking at beady. We're only looking at the saintly way of life, and we're not looking at life from meaty perspective of being proactive and dealing with situations. Yeah. So if somebody's allergic to the word blame, Just throw it out, but
Hanji.
do the same thing just with a different word. You know, I always say there's nothing wrong with the word. ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਅਲਰਜੀ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਤਰੀਕਾ ਵਰਤ ਕੇ ਦੇਖ ਲਓ. That's all it is, isn't it?
Baji, I also find how I am within myself energetically, like if I'm connected to Naam, Guruji, and I'm peaceful within myself, then my reaction is completely different to if I'm dukhi within myself anyway. You know what I'm saying?
No, of course. That just means you're going to be acting outside of Naam. You're going to be acting purely out of ego. And we're not talking about ego here. The Sangat that listens to this podcast will know now, not from this negative way that I think I'm so great. We don't mean ego in that way. When we're so self-centered and self-involved, so individual, we can't see outside of that. And normally then that will bring about a time when we feel low, when we feel bad about ourselves. And then in those times, the reactions that come about are going to be anger and frustration anyway. Yeah? So anyway, let's come back to, because Kar Karna likh la jao is very important, because this is talking about habit forming. So now when we look at habit forming, because this is what this is about, Kar Karna, is when you've created and formed some habits. But you know, Gurbani and this path of knowing your soul is beyond habits. That's why Min Maharaji said, Puni Paapi, whether you're doing something good or you're doing something bad, this is about going beyond that. You don't want to be bound into any habits. You want to be able to live consciously and make the righteous, conscious decision in that moment. Even something that is labeled as being good might not be the thing that you need in a certain particular moment. Yeah. Somebody might label you just talking before. You want somebody else, you want to bring that to light for them about where they needed to take responsibility of something. You might refer to that as being a good habit because you're helping them becoming to know about them. But that might not be the right moment. You might be so stuck in that so-called good habit. No, but मैं तो दसना ही नू ये गलत है बंदा ना तुम I'm blaming you for this. Yeah, but it's not coming from a place of PR and consciousness. You're not intuitive to that situation. You're not coming from a higher space, a higher place. Yeah, you're just stuck in your so-called good habit there. Yeah, of pulling people up on where they needed to take responsibility. You're not reading the energy. You're not coming from PR. Because this
judgment.
Yes, this virtuous here is just, this isn't the virtuous meaning somebody that is coming from their soul, from pure PR of love. It's somebody that is just another habit you've got. Yeah, Guru wants us to go beyond that. And then Papi, somebody constantly acting out of anger and bringing somebody else down with their words. Yeah, you're a mess. The way you do something, yeah, I'm a lot better than you when it comes to this situation. You're not as good as me at this. And I'm looking down at you and speaking now. That's then the Papi, the obvious Papi. But it doesn't mean that, but the Pun and Pap here is just when somebody's stuck in this game of, I did this good and now, sorry, I did this bad and I'm going to do this good to override that. You're just stuck in this cycle.
And you?
Yeah. I spoke to you in a certain way. I hurt you, but it's okay. I'm going to go and feed the birds tomorrow and I'm going to override it. Yeah. You're stuck in this shallow game of good deed, bad deed, good deed, bad deed. You're living this habitual life and you're not free. You're not coming from your soul. Maharaji is saying that people become this way. They form habits, because they've done it again and again. That means now they are living, what that equates to is meaning that you're living unconsciously. Yeah? You're living in autopilot for everything. Yeah? Autopilot has its own place if we need to drive a car. We don't want to be relearning every time we sit in a car of how to drive a car. that's stored in the subconscious mind, but we still drive consciously using the subconscious mind. We're speaking because of the active role of the subconscious mind. We're not having to learn language again and again. That's not what this is talking about. The subconscious mind has a very purposeful place in living and surviving. This is talking about when, just acting out of anger has become habitual now. Doing certain things, you just pick up your phone and you're scrolling. It's you don't even know you're doing it now. Yeah. So that's happened over time. It's become so deep in you. Yeah. And what I want to answer just before we go further is Preacher had a question based on this.
It was about kind of repeated habits, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So if you keep doing the same thing again, and you can do what you were talking about to acknowledge it, you can have a conversation about it, and you can be patient and understanding. But for the person doing that, if they can't get out of that, and also if it's happening with for example, if I every single week didn't change the bhanktiyan, it might be a different conversation, or it might be more difficult to respond because that's the first time it's happened, isn't it? In 20 episodes, it's the first time.
Yeah.
What if this was the 20th time I did that?
That's an absolutely brilliant question. So Jagmeet Singh, if something, I'm sure this happens to so many of us. It's such a real question, isn't it?
You get stuck in old habits and routines.
First thing to realize means that the person that is stuck in that, especially if they want to break out of that, and they're not able to break out of that, they don't want to even be like that anymore. They've had conversations, means they do want to break out of it. This isn't somebody that is completely arrogant. I am the way I am. I don't care. I don't want to stop being. That's not what Preacher is saying there. It's completely different. For me, as somebody here, is then telling me that he's really stuck. He's got a problem here. So that would mean my compassion needs to be even higher and greater. He might keep making the same mistake where he hasn't changed the lines and translations to the way we've done it. That doesn't still mean I have got a right to get angry, because that's then me failing. That's me falling off. I might need to have the conversation in a different way. At the end, I might even need to come to the acceptance of he's not able to do it. Might have to let him go. That doesn't give me any form of reason or justification to okay my anger and blame it on him. I still have to take responsibility if I get angry by the 3rd week or the 4th week. It doesn't matter. But by the 4th week, I might have to have a more stern conversation with him. But it might be that he's still not doing it on purpose. If he's doing it on purpose, of course we need to have a word with him and potentially get him out of the organization. That's a completely different situation. If somebody's doing that maliciously, that's the intent to do that. That means it's a completely different conversation. Then that shouldn't be working out. He still might be that. I still need to have compassion for him. Just shows that how I was not even arrogant here. How much ignorance he has fallen into. Because that's still a bamari, isn't it? That's still a rogue. That's a disease, isn't it? When by your intent is now to do that to somebody on purpose, and you're doing it maliciously, he still needs help, doesn't he? He might want the help, or he doesn't need the help, but that's not what he's asking here. Yeah? So my compassion needs to be greater. And look, let's be truthful here. When that is happening with somebody, it means they need multiple approaches to break from that. They need to try different things, even if it means we need to get an expert involved that understands the psychology of the mind better.
Mind you.
Yeah. We need to use different approaches through Gurbani. Well, we've tried this. Maybe we need to try this. It just means they need even more work, because a certain habit has gone so deep inside of them.
When you're describing that and using that situation, what I'm hearing is if you are so focused on the nitty gritty of what happened and who's to blame, then you get locked out of the solution. Like you're just saying this happened again, and it's like you perpetuate cycle, and then there's no solution. But if you respond in that cool, collected manner of maybe there's something more that meets the eye, then I think you're more open to a solution. That could be like, you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conversations, and maybe you could if you have an open mind, you could recognize that maybe he needs more support in this area. Maybe the man's had to set up everything. He's got a billion little technical things he's sorting out, and then this one thing got missed.
Let's even put it into the household situation, a situation with the family, with the wife or whoever. But what I'm saying here is that it still means that person is suffering.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you treat them like a victim, but it does mean that they're suffering. According to Gurbani, that means they're disconnected, aren't they?
Yep.
They're not living consciously. They're living out of habits that they're finding hard to break. Now, this is the important part. What we've got to admit is it doesn't mean there's not a solution for it. Even the people around and that person needs to acknowledge we've not yet found the thing that is going to work. Yeah, we've still not found the thing that is going to help break through this. People might think they have, but they haven't. Otherwise, they would have done it because they want to break out of it. Yeah, because it means that they might be still missing a step. So what we should be saying is we need to explore further yet the step that we are missing that isn't allowing us to break this certain habit. Obviously, when we're talking about habit breaking, a lot of what you will read online are methods of breaking one habit, which is labeled as a negative, but then it's by picking up another habit that is labeled as positive. That's not what spirituality is about. We're talking about just breaking out of it completely and becoming completely conscious. That's why Guru Sahib Ji said, Ohu Dhopai nave ke rang. We want to wash these ways that are keeping us in cyclic patterns by God's name. God's name means God's nature. We want to fall into that. We need to find ways that are helping us to let go of the grip of ego and our cleverness of thinking, if I keep somebody below me or whatever that is for someone. And how do I start letting go and being drenched in love more? Yeah. And for somebody, that naam for them can be kirtan. For somebody, it might not be doing it for them. Yeah. We have to find those ways that are allowing us to let go of that ego and breaking that habit. Let's look at a few practical things as well, though, because I think it's important. For general habit breaking, they say whatever that is that we keep doing, put things in place where it makes it harder for us to do that. Yeah. So it could be that we got to remember that there's the deeper things that are involved. If you're feeling anxious, you're more prone to picking up your phone and feeding that habit of yours. You got to start looking at, okay, why did I pick it up again? Is it just because of a mere habit? Or is it because this time it's a habit plus I'm doing it more because in this moment in my life, I'm more anxious? Yeah. So this is a deeper conversation of looking at. So for example, if somebody picks up their phone in the morning and starts scrolling, one simple just habit breaking something you can put in place is just put your phone out of reach. Yeah. So there's certain practical steps you can start taking. Start looking at things that make it easier, that feeds your habit, and then start making it harder for you to give in to that habit, to put practical steps into place for that. But really what we're saying, Guru Sahib saying here is that you're not yet, you're living consciously. We can do little steps here. We spoke about in our previous episode that we're not going to spoke about using the word Vaheguru. we could just say Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. Or we could say Vaheguru, I want to let go and I want to let you in. And when I'm saying this word this time, I'm saying it because I'm in pain and I'm finding it hard to let go of that habit. I'm stuck. Now I'm saying Vaheguru and I'm saying, come on, you take over. Come on, you let your love come through because I'm acting out of my habit again. And I'm saying, Vaheguru, Vas mere pyarya, Vas mere Govinda. You come and reside in me, but I have to let go for you to come there. That one that is so pyara, that is so beloved. And then I'm saying that Har paryo Swami ke dware dije buddh viveka. Let that intuitive buddh, I won't even say intellect here, that intelligence that is then referred to as discerning intellect. Discerning intellect comes from that higher self when we let go. So when we're saying, I want to break out, I want to become more conscious, to become more conscious, what are we doing? Are we just doing our part as prayers, as I've got to do my duty as my, as a Sikh? Or am I doing it from that place to let go of the ego so that one can come through so I can start acting consciously now? You say something to me where I would normally act out of a habit and just say and get angry at you and snap and swear at you.
And you.
Or in that moment I can say Vaheguru and say, you come through. My ego is going to say, no, you need me. I'm going to protect you. And I'm going to say, Vaheguru, I need you. I want you to come through. And then Vaheguru does something, says, Dije Buddha Bibeka, gives this from that intelligence of Naam, which is what the creation is made out of. That Naam comes through now. The rang of that, the color of that comes through. Because I said it with color, I said it with love. Now the color of that comes through. Nave ke rang. And now it's this, I act out of consciousness. Pure consciousness. Dije Buddha, I'm actually saying, give me your intelligence, which is now discerning intellect. So now whatever comes from pyar. Because the intelligence is pyar, is love. Every time I say Vaheguru's name, I'm saying I want to act from your name. Because your name is compassion. Daya Gosai Mitala. Your name is Daya. Daya, there. Daya there means Daya. Daya here means compassionate. But it means it's not there as the quality, it's saying compassionate one. It's a noun there, compassionate one. Would that be a pronoun? I'm not great with that, but it's saying let your name come through. I could say the word Vaheguru but still swear at you because I'm not allowing Vaheguru to come through. But I want to say Vaheguru in such a way where I'm saying Vaheguru to allow you to come through. Then I would be in Naam. I want Naam to come through me. Naam isn't just a word. Naam is something that is inside of us. The Guru tells us that, Antar Khota, Amrit Paraya. The Guru says this is this Antar Khota. Khota means there's a well inside of me that is filled with Amrit. Amrit is that Naam. That Naam is that pure consciousness, that pure intelligence. We want to say the word to allow that to come through. And that's when we start acting consciously. We start breaking those habits. That's what it means to truly jap Naam. To meditate on God is saying, I want you to come through. Just try it. In this moment, just be in that. So how, if somebody keeps doing it, they still aren't touching the thing, they're missing a step somewhere that takes them there to Naam. It means you need to dig deeper. You need to go deeper and whatever support you need to take. Because remember, it might be a jigsaw of things that come together to help you. It might be you do more sangat with Gursikhs, but also you might need maybe even a psychologist that helps become a part of that jigsaw, that helps you to understand the mind in a certain way of how it works, of how habits form and how things work. They become a part of that jigsaw. It might be something you're missing. But instead of somebody just saying, this person doesn't even want to, they can't be bothered. I don't believe that's true. Unless it's malicious and the intent is that. Even they are seriously ill. Yeah, but that's a different approach. That's not what we're dealing with here with what Preacher asked. What we're dealing with here is we're still not tapped into something yet. We're still missing a component here. Let's yearn, let's long to find that component to fall into Naam. Yeah? We're still holding on to something. There's still the ego here that isn't allowing us, and that could be for both sides. The person that is telling you that you need to sort yourself out, they've still not found the right approach with that person, and that person that needs to break the habit hasn't found the right approach yet. Yeah. So I think we could do a separate podcast on just what habits are, go deeper into the psychology of it, more practical steps on it as well. But I think we should wrap this up now.
Anji.
So, Kar Karna likh le jao. Marji saying this will that now you don't want, this will start. People say, oh, God's doing everything. No, God, everything's happening within God's law. But it's not, God's not doing everything in the way you think God's doing everything. Most of the time, it's because of your unconscious patterns that you have created, that's become your nature, is the way things are folding out in your life. Now, that is carrying you in every aspect of your life. But Mard said, I'll let you just with your point in a moment, but it's going to carry you so deep because it's unresolved if you've not become conscious yet. It's going to even have an effect when you drop your body. That mind is still in that pattern. It's unresolved. That unconscious desire is an energy here. It's still carrying you your way and your habit of being a certain way to the point of Aape Beej, Aape hi khaho, what you have sown, you are now eating, you are now reaping, to the point where, for example, if I'm constant in this rut of getting angry, yeah, and that anger is now having an effect on my body, is increasing my blood pressure, and then that blood pressure is having an effect on my kidneys, because it does, that's how it works. And then high blood pressure affects your kidneys long term. And I'm thinking, why me? Why has God chose for my kidneys to be in a state? No, it's because you was in a rut and a pattern of anger that has caused from this to this to this. You are eating what you have sown. Yeah. And now, because you still haven't broke that way of being that way, because that anger comes from ego. And I'm not talking about here as just feeling anger for a moment, because it's a natural emotion for certain situations where your body might feel it. It's when you consciously decide to remain in that anger and you think for long periods of time. And then Nanak, Hukmi, Aavhu, the way the law, that divine will works, that law works of that creator, Aavu, Jaahu, it's going to even continue to take you, which is your mind, which is referred to as the subtle body, into reincarnation of coming and going, because it's unresolved. It's an energy that you haven't dealt with, you haven't become conscious of. It's still, that energy is still active. Of that habit, it's going to become the cause of you taking another body on, another body on, another body on. It's just a never-ending cycle, because it's coming out of that ego mind. Yeah.
So, these habits that we repeat over and over again, like if I imagine like a mountain that's full of snow, and you're snowboarding down it or skiing down it, and you've basically in your mind ingrained a pathway. So if there's a catalyst, something happens, and then before you know it, you're reacting, you're going down that same pathway. And then so there's no thought process. It's so ingrained that you just go, and then you've built these pathways in your mind. And two things that I've realized that really help me is, one is Amrit Vela when it's utilized correctly. And not the just get up and do part for the sake of doing part, which is also very beneficial. But like if I'm Maharaj Kirpa being blessed with Amrit Vela and I'm utilizing it to connect to Vaheguru Ji, connect to Guru Ji, then it's almost like I'm wiping clean the slate or the pathway, putting fresh snow on. So the mountain is no longer preset pathways. I can reset the mind, and get out of my different grooves. So then I start the day with an opportunity to react differently and carve out new, let's say, more Gursikhi Jivan pathways. And another thing, like when I feel trapped by my own engravement, my ingrained habits, like if we're blessed to go to the Sarovars of our gurus in Punjab, was like you feel so entrapped by Maya. If you can go utilize that technology of going into the Sarovar, and it's almost like a reset button, where you went in one way and Maharaj has taken away the rog and you come out a different way. And then even Amrit Vela is that Sarovar, isn't it? So if we can't leave our physical houses, and like, so there's one way of repetitively doing it, but I find like, and then it transforms my daily experience. Whereas if I've utilized it correctly in the beginning of the day, and I think that's a blessing too, to be blessed with that type of Amrit Vela where you're using it as a reset, as a shower, as a cleansing process, then if I'm already cleansed in the morning, then I might stand a chance when I'm tested within the confines of family or life. Whereas if I would have gone from hot to cold to hot, or just down the wrong pathway, like it can be like a reset. And then if I feel that anger bubble up, I can say, breathe it through Vaheguru, and then I might have a chance to reset and develop a new pathway.
So what you're saying there is Viji, is that the Amrit Vela can become an aid to awaken you and to become more conscious, where then you're able to, whatever the wisdom that the Guru has given you in the morning, the Guru has made you aware of certain things, reminded you of certain things, reminded you of negative things. What are negative? Guru's told you that asank nindak sir karhe par, you brought that to your awareness about, speaking inaccurately of other people. And so you're going to be now more conscious of that. So the Guru, if done, like you said, in a way in the morning where you're taking it in, then you're going to be more conscious. And that's what Guru's doing, is breaking us out of all habits and allowing us to live consciously and choose our responses to life. And that natural response be more in pyar, more in daya. And that's what that is. And you're saying that could be Amrit Vela. And you spoke about going to Sarovars. But that could be an awakening for somebody. Because around those Sarovars are so much blessings with the Gurbani that is going inside, going into that. What was water then starts to become a Sarovar, a blessed, a sacred pool. The Gurus that were there themselves and put so much energy into of naam, of pyar. So Sangaji, I think we'll wrap it up here. It was amazing to have this conversation with Jagmeet Singh, exploring our Guru's Bani and allowing Gurbani to awaken us. So whatever method the Guru has given us, we spoke about saying the word Vaheguru and allowing us that to awaken us, to let go and let that Babek Buddha come through, that discerning intellect to come through. Allowing these things, the Amrit Vela, to jap naam in the morning, allowing these to awaken us, when we read the Guru's words in the morning, allowing them to awaken us. Everything is about awakening. becoming conscious. Only then can we break out of that cycle, because Maharaj says, whatever you label as so-called good or bad, if it's habitual and you're not in control anymore, then that is the cycle of karma that will keep you in birth and death. You want to awaken and act, and from that pure place, from consciousness, which is pure love. Okay, Veer ji.
Kirpa ji.
Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh ji.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please donate and help spread Guruji's message. Link is in the description below. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh.